Hello and welcome everyone to a special online event today called Explore Quantum DNA and the Diamond Light Body: How to Integrate Higher Energies that Awaken Your Soul Gifts to Become a More Multidimensional Being. I'm Josh Wise. I'm the VP of Education at the Shift Network. It's an honor to be here with you today, hosting today's program, bringing you Dr. John Ryan, MD, founder of Unity Field Healing. Welcome, John.
Thank you, Josh. Thank you so much. It's a delight to be here, and of course, to be with the whole audience. So it's fun to share this time with everybody.
Thank you for being here.
You bet.
Now, we only have an hour, and so I'd like to dive right in.
Okay.
And then at the end of our time together, I want to tell our audience how they can make a bigger commitment to their own transformation and work with you through a truly groundbreaking course called Quantum DNA and the Diamond Light Body: Energy Activations that Awaken Your Soul Gifts and Stabilize Higher Frequencies on Earth. I first experienced John's teachings when he last taught a course with us here at the Shift Network. And what really struck me about your teachings, John, is that you have such a gift for explaining these deep metaphysical concepts in a way that I could really relate to, that just felt natural and easy to understand. You this idea of the 24th chromosome, and it just you sparked something in me that felt really good. I also noticed that you have such a capacity to connect with your students and to truly hear them and to validate them and to help them reframe some of their ideas and reframe what they're seeing in the world in a way that is truly powerful and transformational.
It's very kind, Josh. Thank you.
So before we get into the core of your teaching, I would love for you to share, what is it that put you on the path to devote so much of your life energy to this work?
Sure. Well, going back in time, I guess my background is in medicine. So I'm a physician. I'm a specialist in diagnostic imaging. So working with imaging modalities like CT, MRI. And I was a professor at the university, training upcoming young physicians in the skills of these specialties and that type of work. But very early in my career, I underwent kind of an unusual energetic phenomena experience, for lack of a better word. Today, people would term it a Kundalini style awakening, but of course, I had no frame of reference or context for understanding what I was experiencing back in the time. So this is like the late 80s, early 90s. And I began having these energetic experiences where I'd lay in bed, I would consciously pop out of my body and have these out of body experiences. I began seeing energy fields around people and the like. And so something was very strange was happening to me, but because I didn't really know what was happening, of course I first thought something was wrong with me, like what's happening. And my only frame of knowledge was Western medicine. So I started to think I must be having a stroke or a brain tumor or a seizure or something like that. But anyway, one thing led to another. And I was led one day in the midst of this experience by this intuition that I woke up one morning and I just had to go to this bookstore in town that I had never been to. And it wouldn't kind of go away. I was kind of ignoring it as an idea, but the day went on and it was really pressing on me. So I found myself in the car going to this bookstore, and I walked into the bookstore and I'm looking around thinking, how am I ever going to find anything meaningful? It was a new age type of a bookstore. And as my eyes panned around the room, there was a book on the shelf that literally magnified as my eyes went over the bookshelf, just like on a computer today, when your mouse crosses an icon, the icon, of course, will blow up. So as I'm panning around the bookstore, there was a book that did exactly that on the bookshelf. And so I went over and I took the book off the shelf, and it was entitled The Spontaneous Awakening of Kundalini by Gopi Krishna. And so I started panning through the book and I thought, oh my goodness, this is so precise and so meant for me. And so I took the book and I checked out of the bookstore and started to read it. And pretty much that was the triggering moment, I think, in my life that really put me on the path that I'm on today. And what happened after that, Josh, was I became super interested, of course, in the Kundalini phenomena. I became very interested in esoteric forms of healing, particularly ancient forms of healing, like Ayurvedic medicine, Chinese medicine, these types of medical systems that are based on a very different conceptual understanding of the body and the spirit and healing than we're used to in the West. And so in parallel, these two aspects of, my interest grew. I was working in Western medicine, but learning all about Eastern medicine and starting to apply some of those principles. And I did a lot of work with people in healing, working more with spiritual consciousness and energy consciousness. And so that evolved over, a period of time. And I began to receive kind of downloads, I guess, of information. I don't know how else to say that, but channeled information or, information that was prompted in automatic writing and these types of things that began teaching me about the ascension process that's happening on the planet. And so this is a concept that a lot of people I think today are familiar with, but we're aware that the earth is going through a phenomenal transformation of consciousness and energy. If you look at the screen of the world today, it might not seem like it's necessarily a good thing, but that too is part of this process. And what's really happening is the earth is transforming. And we're about to move into a time on this planet where humanity lives in a much different frame of consciousness, what you might term an ascended frame of consciousness. And so we're going to begin understanding a lot more about ourselves as a species, as an energetic reality, as a conscious being, etc. And that all of this is being prompted because the earth is undergoing this type of graduation process. And so with that, I was given a lot of information about how the energy patterns on the earth are changing, how the grids of energy on the earth are changing, and how humanity is changing. And I was taught in visions that I experienced about what we kind of covered in the last course, this 24th chromosome concept. And so basically, I mean, to try to summarize it a little bit in a short time, it was shown to me as a structure of energy that has been part of the human energy system that has been dormant. And so we're familiar, like if people study yoga and Eastern systems of healing, you'll be familiar with the chakras and the meridians and these types of concepts. But there's a whole part of the human energy system that has been dormant. It's almost like it's been closed down or turned off for a period of time so that humanity could have a certain type of human experience, what we might call the duality experience, light and dark, not necessarily understanding they're part of one another or they're mixed together in the way that they are. And so in spiritual terms, we would talk about that as a time of duality, light and dark, understanding our nature of beings that potentially can be light or dark in our nature, and going through the karmic process of reconciling a lot of those attributes of being and hopefully taking a path towards the light. So that was really what that frame or that period of time is all about on the earth. But we're going through a unity process where our consciousness is being expanded, and we're going to begin to understand some of the things about the nature of reality that were very difficult to understand in that frame of being. And the way that this is happening in the human body is through the opening of the 24th chromosome. And so this is like a field of quantum information, if you will. It's a connection that each one of us has as a being, a soul in a body, to the very highest aspects of our own spiritual nature. So what we might term your higher self or your monad, or, all these terms become a little bit interchangeable. And so each one of us is a spiritual being, dare I say, a divine being, a being of divine source. And we have this spiritual connection that's part of our makeup. And that energy field is expanding and opening at this point in time. Now, as that is occurring, there is also something happening in the human body. The body has to adapt to this new energy system. And so the human body up to this moment in time has been designed to have a certain energetic form or calibration, our chakras, the meridians, these types of things that are part of that body form, that system, are well understood. But as we go into this new phase, there's this field of energy that's interfacing with us through the 24th chromosome requires a little bit of a different energetic form, a different kind of a body, if you will, in order to be able to hold those higher dimensional energies and the consciousness that goes along with that. And so as humans, we're learning to, we hear kind of colloquial terms, rise in vibration. We're shifting in energy. Our consciousness is elevating. These are all kind of synonymous terms that people use. But there's a real quantum aspect to that, or quantum reality to that, where the human body is being asked to kind of mutate, I guess, in different ways, or undergo energetic integration that will allow it to more reliably calibrate to those higher dimensional energies. And so our body is undergoing its own energetic transformation. Now, the way that was introduced to me was through the form of something that's termed the diamond light body. So the diamond light body is kind of the energy anatomy, if you will, or the structure of the energy field that is awakening in humans as we undergo this process. And so that's the background, a very short version of the background of how that all came into being.
That is amazing. And clearly, they did not teach you that all in medical school.
No.
But you have been a diligent student to listening to the inspiration that has wanted to come through, and this evolutionary process that's been happening within yourself. Could you tell me more about the diamond light body, and do we each have our own diamond light body?
Yeah. So, I mean, the first thing I would always say about this, Josh, is we have to understand first the limitations of linear language. So anything that we are going to put into a linear form of teaching and call it certain names and calibrate it to certain kinds of ideas, we're always going to be limited. It's never going to fully express the reality of a quantum multidimensional reality. But in order for us to grow into the knowledge and to grow into the experience, we do have to calibrate it down into a language that we can understand. And so people might use different terms, but are talking about a similar process or the same process. So there could be different languages that apply. Now, this is the way that it was shown to me. And the reason that language was used is because part of my own awakening process was I had an experience where I was introduced to a group of light beings. So it was a meditation, in my mind's eye, I was given this visual encounter with a group of light beings in a meditative form, almost like a dream vision, if you will. And they introduced themselves to me as the Syrian Blue White Collective. And they explained that they're kind of not part of humanity, but in the background supporting humanity, I guess is a better way of saying that. And that they are intimately connected to the earth, to the planet, to humanity. They've been part of the human experience from, as they had said when they first introduced themselves, before the beginning of time on the planet, before humanity began on the planet. And they've been a very instrumental part of developing a lot of the quantum architecture and energy grids that are part of the planet, and the human design, the body to sustain a human form on the planet, etc. And so very esoteric and kind of out there information if you're not used to that kind of thinking. But that is the information that they presented to me when they came in this meditation. And what they explained is that the human body is undergoing a quantum kind of a crystalline metamorphosis. There's this whole field of multidimensional energy and reality that's compounding on the form. And so it's like we're integrating this. So we exist in a certain state, and then we're integrating these layers or dimensions of energy on top of the current human energy system or the current human energy form. And that's having an impact on the body. It's, a lot of people live what they term ascension symptoms, where they have these unusual periods of fatigue, or they get soreness in their body, or mood shifts that don't make sense in context of their life or their reality, and all kinds of different symptoms like healing rashes and neurological symptoms and GI symptoms and all these kinds of things. And it's all part of this energetic integration that's taking place. But this has a purpose. The whole purpose of this integration is so that the human body can exist in a much higher vibrational field and state than what we could term the old earth. So we can, use the terms new earth and old earth. The new earth is a much different vibrational energetic reality than the old earth. And for the body to be in that new space, it has to undergo this integration to be able to exist well in that space. And with that integration, all kinds of things happen to the body, which are quite magical in nature from the way we're used to thinking. But once we work through those symptoms, the integration of that energy allows the body to work in a much more multidimensional and multifaceted way. And what happens for humans is, as that energy body integrates, the kinds of things that we think about as spiritual gifts, spiritual abilities begin to awaken in a very natural and spontaneous way. This is all, it really is all an organic process, as lofty and esoteric as it sounds. It's the way a plant develops. You put a little seed in the ground, it turns into a plant, it grows a blossom, it puts out, all kinds of beauty, and then seeds, and it reproduces, and so on and so forth. So there's a whole organic process to this energetic integration. And as it unfolds in the body develops its own ability to spontaneously heal, or to have energetic calibrations in the body that remove certain conditions or certain diseases or certain states, if you will. It opens up spiritual gifts like our intuition, our all the clairs that speak about, people speak about clairvoyancy, claircognizance, clairaudience, these types of things. And we become aware of ourselves as being in human form, but also connected to the spiritual world, or to a whole multidimensional world of energy at the same time. And the planet is also undergoing a metamorphosis in correlation with the human changes. So the planet too is developing new grids. What you might call the crystalline grid is a term that gets used a lot. And this new body and field interfaces with this grid. And so that our relationship to the planet begins shifting as well. And it's why so many people who undergo a spiritual awakening begin to understand their relationship. This is the term people will use, their relationship with the planet. And so we know that we are part of the planet. Our bodies come from the planet, that we are in relationship with the planet. And as these energetic fields awaken within the human form, our relationship with the planet expands. And so as the earth shifts and we shift, we become calibrated to living in that new environment and all the abilities that come along with that. And so that's the way the information has been presented in the teachings that have come through those experiences for me.
So beautiful. I love the teachings that you've been receiving, and your ability to share those teachings. And so I'm curious, this individual and collective human evolution, and what is the relationship between our evolution and the planet's evolution? Does our evolution influence the planet's, and vice versa? It sounds like both of these things are happening simultaneously, and I'm curious what that relationship is, and does one support the other?
Yeah, it's a great question. So the way that this was brought to me was, we can only really understand these things, Josh, if we think in terms of time cycles. So like we're familiar, for example, the year 2026, the month of, March, the day is 24 hours. It can be broken down into minutes and seconds. And there are periods of time of different cycles. So, for example, there are 365 days, there are 12 months, there is 1 year, and they're all different time cycles that are superimposed on each other. there will come points in time where there is a convergence of time. So, say, for example, December 31st, Saturday, whatever year we label, would be at the end of that day at midnight. It's the end of a year, the end of a month, the year, end of 365 days, the end of many, many, many cycles in time. On a much more galactic level of understanding, or a bigger than 24-hour clock time type of understanding, there are cycles. There are galactic cycles that take place, and the Earth is part of a solar system, which is in a galaxy, and all of these structures have their own cycles. And the Earth was designed as a planet for divine life to evolve. It was created by the Creator, shall we dare say, in order to be a planet of that nature. It was its purpose, it was its destiny, so to speak. And humanity came to live on this planet and go through its process of evolution in a certain design. There's this blend of free will and destiny that kind of dance together in that process. Humans have the opportunity to live out experiences and go through a soul learning process in the act of doing that. But there come points in time where certain cycles end. And so it's every ending of a cycle is, of course, the beginning of a new cycle. And so humanity is poised, and the solar system and the galaxy altogether are poised for a transformation of that cycle. And so the elders of all kinds of spiritual traditions have been, we're familiar with the Mayan timekeepers. And, if we go into any religious history or spiritual tradition, all of them speak in some way or form about this point in time being a remarkable point in time, ending cycles of time. And so what gets missed in that conversation sometimes is endings are beginnings. So if there's an ending of a cycle, of course, there's a beginning of a new cycle. And so when spiritual elders were asked questions about these types of things, like the Mayan elders, they would say, well, what is the new cycle? And they would say, well, it has not been created yet. We cannot tell you its nature other than to say it is an experience of unity consciousness, as opposed to the last cycle, which was an experience of duality consciousness. And so as we move into this new time frame, there is going to be an adjustment in humanity where all of the systems that are part of duality and fear-based creation have to be effaced. They kind of have to be taken out of the system and washed away. And so as we move into this new time frame, it will be a kind of a civilization that understands its spiritual origin. It understands its spiritual nature. It understands its relationship, not just to the planet, but to the solar system and to the galaxy as well. It understands that humanity is one species and that we are really a family of one, and that we have to really begin to learn how to operate that way. And it's a little far away from where you might consider ourselves to be at this moment in time. But that's the purpose of what's happening right now, is this calibration process. We have to surface all the things that cannot move forward in time into this new cycle. And so the way they present to us as humans, of course, is there are experiences that are created on the screen of life, on the world screen, if you will, and they have to be lived through. And then humanity reaches choice points where we begin to make changes and adjustments so that the consciousness that wants to come forward through humanity begins to settle as like a blanket, if you will, over the entire planet. And so that's the workings of it. And that will bring humanity into a new kind of a time cycle, or a new frame of experience. And the essence of it, the foundational tone, if you will, of that whole structure will be unity consciousness, understanding the oneness of humanity. And so when we look forward in time to shift the energy to a place where that's a natural state of being, everything has to change energetically. There are blueprints and templates and grids and all kinds of things that are part of form structure that have to be calibrated or transformed into a new kind of a system in order for it to sustain life at that level of vibration, to try to reduce it into simple language. And so as the Earth is birthing itself through this process, we're going through this clearing process. Things that can't go forward in energy have to be processed and removed, I guess, from the system. if we want to think in those terms. And so that is really what is happening at this moment in time on the planet. I think it's a very difficult time on the planet in all kinds of ways, as people are very familiar with. But it's very important to understand there is a bigger purpose to it and a bigger destiny to it. And it's really in alignment with what we're speaking about.
That's a really helpful framing to think about, um, this difficult moment that we are in on the planet right now. It's hard to read the headlines. It's hard to, you know, see what's going on. And I know that many of us feel it deeply, what is going on the planet right now. And so what I love about your message here is how you're reframing these challenges, as a really as a portal, a necessary transformation that we are going through as a species and that the planet is going through, in order for us to reach this stage of unity consciousness, and that's really baked into the architecture of these cycles within the planet, and these cycles and growth cycles within our own DNA and spiritual DNA as well.
True.
I'm curious. I've heard you talk about the oversoul and oversoul resonance. Can you expand on that and how that ties in here?
Yeah, of course. So I think the challenge about spiritual language sometimes is there are so many spiritual traditions, all of which have a face of understanding divinity or a way of understanding divinity. And so languages develop that correlate to those facets of teaching or those aspects of teaching or lineages of teaching, shall we say. And so we get this mishmash of words that kind of mean the same thing, but don't exactly mean the same thing. And we don't sometimes know what the difference is between the meaning of the words. The way I was shown this information was I always like making things simple so that we can understand them with the minimal complexity to understand the fullness of the principle or the concept. So if we can get a really big concept into a little tiny simple understanding, I think we're doing well. But what I was shown is that as a soul, as a human in a body, we have a body. We tend to identify ourselves by that body, the name that we attach to that body, the career, the roles we play in that body, etc. The human aspect of that. We think of that as our identity. But we're beginning to understand a truer nature of reality, in that this incarnation, we'll call it, is just an experience of a soul. The soul lives in the body and has an experience through the form of this body, through the identity of this body, through the choices that are made while we live in this body, et cetera, et cetera. And so we're not really a human seeking divinity. We're really a soul being born into a body to have an experience. And it's a really fundamental reversal of thinking, because as long as we're humans trying to access the divine, we need intermediaries, we need, priests and priestesses and other people to make that connection for us and so on. But the truth is, every one of us as a human being has a direct connection to the divine. Every one of us is seeded with light, is seeded with consciousness in order to exist. And so no matter who you are as a human, no matter how magnificent or atrocious your behavior might be as a human, you still have divinity in you, and the light in you is really what is empowering your experience. As we learn to reverse that and begin thinking of ourselves in those terms, it changes the way we think about life, about reality, about everything. We begin to understand we're not separate from divinity. We're actually part of divinity. And the more we let ourselves sink into that understanding, the more it manifests through us. When you really begin to understand that you're a soul in a body and you have a spiritual connection, you start to think, well, what is the purpose of my soul? What's my soul doing in this body? Why am I here on the earth? We begin to ask the bigger fundamental questions. And that all happens for humanity in a really simple way, without perhaps understanding the mechanics of it or the language I'm using to describe it. People go through this awakening in different ways as in living their life. And so the soul doesn't have just one earthly experience. The soul is multi-incarnate. We've all had other lifetimes, if you will. And so the soul that is Josh or the soul that is John has been on the planet at other times in other experiences and in other incarnations. And there's a whole mosaic of experience that is connected to that soul's presence. And so in our souls, we have access to the information or the memory of these other lifetimes. And you hear today many people having these spontaneous memories of other incarnations or other things that they've lived, or even healing at a level where they're releasing some of the wounds that may be part of those other incarnations, kind of a soul retrieval process. And we're bringing back together a light pattern that is within the soul's connection to higher spiritual dimensions. Now, the way I was shown that connection is through the access of the 24th chromosome. But the 24th chromosome kind of represents the field that the soul incarnates through to be informed. Within the field of the 24th chromosome, we have access to all of these other incarnations and experiences that we have lived. But at the very top of that, there's a pattern. Each one of us was made in the mind of the creator with a certain energy quality, a certain attribute of being, a certain bigger purpose in the bigger picture, a certain essence, if you will. And that for every human on the planet, every soul that's incarnate on the planet, it's a little bit different. The soul has a different function or a different purpose. There's some people who are very musical, or people who are very architectural, or people who are very nurturing, or people who are very hands-on and physical, and other people are very cerebral and, work with other functions of the human capacity. And so there are souls of different natures, but we have to work together for everybody to bring forward their attributes, their beauty, their qualities, their reason for existing in the first place. And so we kind of see this pattern as an overlay to humanity. Like humanity only thrives when we work together. It just is the nature of things, right? Like if I'm an island and I try to make my own little world where I have all the power and control and so on, we see where that goes. If we work together as a collective and we try to build a world that sustains wellness for everybody, and there's an aspect of honoring each person's contribution to the mosaic or the fabric of what it is, that of course goes in another direction. And that kind of defines the essence of duality versus unity. And so the soul has a purpose at a very high level of existence that people will sometimes term the higher self, the oversoul, or the monad. And so these terms tend to get used a little bit interchangeably. But we could think of as the oversoul as the aspect of consciousness that is fully aware of the multiplicity of experiences that the soul has lived and the purpose for which the soul came into being in the first place. And so it's kind of like a elevated level of consciousness, although I don't like to think in those terms of hierarchy, above and below and all that kind of stuff. It's the part of us that knows that function. And so every one of us has an oversoul relationship. There's a part of us that understands our true purpose, what we're doing here, how to heal things, how to fix things, how to move forward with our lives, etc. And that it's connected to the soul's experience in a way way beyond this simple incarnation at this simple point in time. And because we carry all that information and wisdom within us, that can come forward through us. And so as we go through this expansion, we begin to awaken these gifts, these abilities, these talents, for example, if you've lived another life, Josh, where you were a healer, or you lived another life where you were a mother, or you were a father, or you were, you can name the experience. You pull upon the energy of those experiences to help you be a really enriched, multifaceted human in this body at this point in time. So you could be a man, for example, but really understand maternal nurturing. You could be an architect, but really understand principles of healing and bring that into your work as an architect. So there's this unusual multidimensionality that really starts to take shape for each one of us as we're pulling on all of these memories, all of these energies, all of this history of the soul through the oversoul's influence.
That's a really beautiful way to look at it. Each of our capacity to connect to those different threads of wisdom that have been accumulated over time through our soul's journey. I really love that. And I believe there's an opportunity for a diamond light activation today. Is that right?
Certainly, we could do a meditation if you like. We could go through a process like an energetic guided process to have an experience with energy. We always say, words are limited, experience is profound.
Words are indeed limited, and I appreciate your respect for language and words um, and their ambiguity sometimes, and your ability to help um, bring us back to the simplicity and the clarity in the words. And yeah, if you'd be willing to guide a meditation around this, I would really love that.
Yeah, let's do that. So we'll take 5 minutes or so, and we'll do just a brief meditation for energy. So let's all just take a minute to kind of let go of the thinking, the conversation. Just allow yourself to settle in your body. Just bring your consciousness into your head, into your mind, and let it settle down. Just imagine you're drifting down in your body into the space of your heart, and that your consciousness is really present at this level of your being. Just take a nice deep breath into your body. Just feel the energy in your body here in the heart. You can imagine that with each beat of your heart, each pulsation of the heart, there's a light that begins to expand in the heart center. Like we're turning up the light, or the light is getting brighter and stronger. And as this occurs, the energy is lifting through your body, through all the tissues in your body, into the space around your body, just creating a beautiful auric field of color and light vibration. We just pause for a moment there, just to allow the energy to catch up with the principle. And then just feel in your body the connection you have to the earth in this space. The earth is genuinely our mother in context, and our relationship with the earth is one of support and fundamental grounding. Just let ourselves feel that connection and how the earth is holding you and supporting you. And as we attune to this moment, the energy in your field, in your body, continues to further expand. You can feel your energy growing larger and bigger. We can just invite into the process at this moment your own guides, your own sense of spiritual support that you carry, and the energy of your oversoul, your higher self. Just become aware in your mind that this connection exists, and we're going to open ourselves to that field of energy and consciousness. And you may feel in your body a sense of a descent of energy, like there's an energy that begins to channel from above down through your body in a spiraling pattern. And just allow yourself to absorb that energy or integrate that energy through your field. And simultaneously, we begin to feel an energy rising from the center of the earth in a spiral pattern moving up through your body. Just allow this energy to spiral and integrate, and just let your body absorb or receive from the energy that which serves your highest good, your highest potential, a true sense of spiritual support and healing. And as the energy forms in this way, I'm just going to invite you to bring your hands forward, palms up in front of your body. And as we hold our hands in this space, there's a light that begins to coalesce in the hands, a beautiful geometrical pattern of light that begins to form in your hands, like you're holding this energy in your hand. For each person, the pattern will look a little different. It's very tailored and suited to you. And the energy forms this beautiful structure, which is pulsing and glowing like a living light geometry in your hand. And I invite you to take your hands and bring them towards your body and press your palms against the heart center of your body, as if you're holding that energy and bringing it into the heart chakra or the heart center of the body. And just hold that in space for a moment as the energy integrates. And then you can bring your hands back down in a relaxed position. And take a nice deep breath into your body. Take a couple of nice breaths. As we're integrating energy, we have a tendency to hold our breath a little. Just breathe through this. Breathe deeply and let your body relax fully. We'll allow the energy just to continue working through the body as we step out of the meditation. When you're ready, you can open your eyes and come on back into the space. I'm just going to explain something, Josh, with that experience. I'm going to add words to it. Just saying I wasn't. When I'm doing meditations, what happens for me is in my third eye, I'm shown visuals. So I'm given little pictures in my mind's eye. And so the energy, I'm a narrator in essence. I'm basically describing what I'm seeing in my mind's eye that guides the meditation. And something about energy we begin to understand is for everything that takes form in the world, there's a living blueprint of energy. We understand we have an etheric body, for example, and the physical body is built on top of that energy. If we're going to build a house, we first make a blueprint for the house, and the house is built on the structure of that invisible blueprint or that energetic blueprint. When healing is taking place in the body, things shift first at the level of energy long before they shift in the world of form. The blueprint has to be adjusted for things to manifest or to come into form. And so often when we're working with healing at the level of quantum healing, there's geometry involved. There'll be little geometries that become patterns, if you will, or the seeds, if you will, for a certain kind of a healing or experience. And so what I saw happening in this experience is that everybody was crafting a different little geometrical pattern, a pattern that they are bringing into their own energy system. And every person is unique. It wouldn't be the same, for you or for me or anybody listening in the audience. Everybody's energy would be its own structure, but it would be suited to really where you are at this moment in time through the experiences you are going through at this moment in time and the potential you're hoping to achieve through your life at this moment in time. So the energy is kind of crafted in a very tailored and personal way to help calibrate the energy of the system towards each person's experience and where they are. So it was very special to see that. I never prepare these meditations. I always let them be spontaneous in the moment and let the visual guidance kind of prompt the story.
Thank you for sharing that insight into your process and how you're able to tune in and see that in your third eye, that image, and that you are able to narrate that for each one of us. That was a beautiful meditation. I absolutely loved bringing that geometric shape into my heart space, um, and sort of once it was settled there inside of my being, I had like the biggest yawn. It just felt like I needed to like expand and breathe in and release. It released all this tension in my jaw, and it was wonderful. So thank you so much
Amazing.
for that meditation.
You're so welcome.
And now I want to make sure that we have a chance for everyone to learn about John's upcoming program, where we can go much further into the work we've started to touch upon today. We are excited and honored to be hosting John for the upcoming program, Quantum DNA and the Diamond Light Body. You can follow along with us at diamondlightbodyactivations.com. Just type this URL directly into your browser, or you can simply click on the link provided on the event page. Once again, that is diamondlightbodyactivations.com. And when you get on that page, just scroll down to the place where you see the headline that says, "What you will discover in these 7 weeks." And while you're getting to that page, I just want to reflect once more, John, that uh, the architecture that you are sharing, the codes that you are sharing, I love that you have been able to tune in with these frequencies, tune in with these beings and these messages of wisdom and clarity. It is clear, even in that meditation, you guided us to connect with our heart, to connect with the earth, and to connect with this geometric shape. And all of that just felt like this grounded presence of heart energy and quantum activations. And I just felt like you're bringing through something really, really powerful and important for our day and age. So I'm excited to share more about this course now. Um, so John, I'm going to read the title of each one of these modules that people will get to learn about in the course. And when I read the title, will you just give us a brief synopsis of what they'll learn during that week's teaching?
Of course, yeah.
All right. So, Module 1, Shift from Density to Light by Awakening Your Crystalline Blueprint.
So this is kind of the inauguration, I guess, into the teaching of the diamond light body. Each one of us, Josh, carries the the energy pattern, or what we might call the template for the spiritual awakening that's taking place on the planet. This is not something anybody gives to another person. It's not something that is external to us. It's something that each one of us carries within the structure of our own energetic axis or our own energetic system. And so we all have this crystalline blueprint, this template, if you will, that knows how to catalyze and trigger the awakening, the spiritual awakening within us that's happening on the planet. This is why people experience spontaneous Kundalini awakenings and these types of things. It's because this energy, this pattern is being activated. As we're gently introduced to it in a more conscious way, or in a more coherent way that we can begin to understand with our mental process, we begin to develop a language that we can use to describe some of this stuff. So the way this was shown to me was that, very similar to the meditation we just shared, each person has a geometrical crystalline pattern that's the seed of their awakening. It's really the crystalline seed or the structure that triggers the awakening. And this whole module is a discussion around that, and then a meditation to help facilitate the activation or the integration of that information within your own DNA system, your own axis.
Beautiful. Module 2, Bridge Your Human and Divine Selves by Activating the 24th Chromosome.
Yeah, so we touched on this a little bit too in our conversation. So The 24th chromosome was shown to me kind of as a framework for understanding the connection that each one of us holds to the divinity that we carry in us. It's this bridge of energy and consciousness that is the mechanism, if you will, or the crystalline architecture through which that connection is made and enhanced. And it's undergoing a profound metamorphosis right now. It's awakening and expanding. And, people talk about DNA activation and things. And it's true. It really is occurring, not in terms of the chromosomes we carry in our cells, like the 23 pairs of chromosomes that we have in our cells. It's the 24th chromosome. It's like an overlighting energy structure that's part of the human energy system that doesn't really have a physical correlate. It exists in an energy dimension, if you will. And so this is expanding and opening. And the whole first program on Shift was really an introduction to the 24th chromosome and the work of unity field healing, which is the healing work that evolved from this understanding. And so in this particular module, we're going to do kind of a recap of some of that information, and then a profound meditation activation to calibrate this opening for people who are participating in the meditations.
Module 3, stabilize your light body by anchoring into Earth's crystalline grid.
And so it's an extension of our conversation where we understand as this energy is opening within our system, it has to anchor. And the Earth is expanding, and her crystalline structure, her energy structure is also changing to help us kind of plug in, like a plug in and outlet. We're anchoring ourselves in the grid of the Earth in this new format with a meditation to achieve it.
So powerful. Module 4, reclaim your soul's gifts by activating codes of remembrance.
So once this chromosome pattern starts to open within our system, there are codes of light. What they look like hieroglyphs or little geometrical signatures that each one of us carries in this field. And as we go through this expansion, they begin activating or kind of singing into the field or calibrating into the field. And so we're going to introduce that, explain kind of the process of that, and then again, a meditation to help really anchor and activate that process within our own system.
Module 5, live as a multidimensional being by embodying the stargate within.
So in this module, we're going to approach a little bit of an understanding that a soul is not limited just to earthly incarnations. People hear the term star seeds, and we have connections to different star systems, or people feel like they come from a star system like a Sirian or a Pleiadian. The truth is the soul has experiences in many different places in the galaxy. So we're going to introduce that as a concept and a teaching, and then a meditation to kind of bridge those connections within the energy field again.
Module 6, serve as a field of healing by holding the diamond chalice.
So as this energy evolves within the system, the way that I was shown a metaphoric expression, I guess, of what happens is each one of us becomes like a chalice or a vessel holding energy on the planet. And as we learn to hold this energy, it overflows like a chalice that's overflowing with light. So each one of us moves into a role of service for the collective. The more our energy is expanding and our consciousness is expanding, we're holding energy and bringing energy to the planet for the benefit, not just of ourselves, but the planet as a whole. And so the principle of that was put into a visual metaphor of a chalice. And so that's the principle we're going to discuss and meditate on.
I love it. Module 7, integrate divine mastery by fully embodying your diamond light.
And so as we go through this full calibration and integration, what really happens within us as humans is we become an embodiment of that principle. We become an embodiment of that consciousness. And so we can think of masters who've walked the earth, the Christed beings, the Buddhas, the various avatars that founded different spirit. They didn't found the spiritual systems followed them once they brought that light and teaching. And so we're moving into a space where humanity will learn to live in that wisdom, each one of us, like not just one person that everybody has to learn from, but an embodied collective of people who are living in that space, embodied wisdom or embodied, higher dimensional consciousness. And so we're going to discuss that as a concept and what that would look like. And then we're going to do a really profound meditation in this module to help anchor or calibrate that awakening within the energy system of our own being.
I love this vision that you hold and this message that you carry. Let's talk a little bit more about this course and what people can expect. And again, you can find this program laid out in detail at diamondlightbodyactivations.com. I'll share a little bit more about it. You get 7 90-minute live sessions with John, including interactive exercises and Q&A time. One of the things that makes learning at the Shift Network unique is that this is a live learning experience. You're not just watching pre-recorded content, you're stepping into a living classroom with participants from around the world who are exploring this work together. Throughout the program, you'll hear questions from other students, share insights, and deepen the teachings through collective exploration. Many participants say that some of their most meaningful breakthroughs come not only from the teachings themselves, but from hearing the reflections and experiences of others in the room. You will also get recordings of these sessions, both video and audio, full word-for-word transcripts to work with, study, and highlight, weekly exercises and practices for deep inquiry and action learning, and a community group to support you and deepen your experience. And when you go to that page, diamondlightbodyactivations.com, you'll also see a number of great extra bonuses as well. And we're going to talk about those right now. One of these is a video recording and meditation by Dr. John Ryan called Unity Field Healing Seminar, Foundations of Quantum DNA and Ascension. And another is an exclusive discount code from Dr. John Ryan. It's $150 off Unity Field Healing Practitioner Training. Anything you want to say about either of those bonuses?
So what they are, Josh, is the work of the 24th chromosome opens up new venues for healing within the human experience, I guess. And so the Unity Field healing process was introduced to me, or channeled to be able to begin working in these planes or dimensions of energy to bring healing into the human body and into the human experience in different ways. And so the whole Unity Field program is a series of sessions that are done as energy healing sessions, similar to, say, Reiki or other forms of energy medicine. And but the program is an introduction to the whole course. It's kind of like a whole lecture presentation that explains the principles of the 24th chromosome and how to work with healing. And then there are 2 really powerful healing meditations that are included in the program. The second is for people who want to become practitioners of the Unity Field healing work. The trainings are done both in person and online. And so people can register to become practitioners of Unity Field healing. And the code is a coupon for a discount on the training of $150 if people are signing up to be practitioners.
Okay. And those are the bonuses that come with this program. And there's a special bonus when you sign up today by midnight. We like to do this to encourage you to tune in right now while it's fresh, while you're connected with John and with myself, and really have a sense that this is the moment to make a decision. And so we want to give you a little extra incentive to make a decision today if you want to move forward. And this bonus is a video recording by Dr. John Ryan, Golden Egg of Quantum Light. Would you share a little bit more about that, John?
So to understand this bonus, the Syrians asked me to begin a series of monthly transmissions, and the transmissions were designed to help people who were going through a spiritual awakening and integrating these energies and the teachings of all the things we're speaking about. As we live through that, each one of us encounters all kinds of experiences in our own story. We have our own healing crises, our own human experiences that we have to go through, etc. And so they wanted to begin these monthly transmissions as a mechanism for supporting people in their energetic development through this process. And so the Syrians play a role in those transmissions. They're actually present in the transmissions. They work with people one-on-one, if you will, in the meditations while we're doing the transmissions. This was the opening transmission for year 4. And it was a very powerful transmission where I'm always, I have to say things that are a little bit out of context. So I'm always stumbling a little bit over the words. But the Pleiadian mothers came into this transmission and they presented an energy template to help humanity as it's going through this awakening process. And they referred to it as the golden crystalline egg. And so this transmission is a full recording of that whole teaching, and then the transmission meditation that was given to anchor that crystalline structure in the body, in the energy form of the body.
Wow. It sounds like a powerful, powerful transmission. And so this is going to be an amazing program. And once again, you can find all the details at diamondlightbodyactivations.com. We've kept it very accessible. It's just 3 payments of $128, or you can save 10% when you pay in full, 1 payment of $349. The course starts on April 15th, so I encourage you to go over to diamondlightbodyactivations.com and give it a read. Tune in, and if you're getting a yes, then there's really no risk since there's a money-back guarantee of your satisfaction. Course sessions are on Wednesdays at 9 a.m. Pacific, noon Eastern. But even if you can't make it at those live times, you still get the full value because you'll be able to get the recordings right away, the transcripts, and still participate in the community. So I encourage you, go over to diamondlightbodyactivations.com and make your decision today. And if you do so, you get this golden egg of quantum light as your special bonus for doing so today. John, thank you so much. Thank you for the wisdom you've shared, this incredible vision that you have for humanity. You have such an important message for all of us at this time. Is there anything on your heart that you would like to share with those who are considering joining you for this upcoming program?
Sure. I think the most important thing I would share right now, Josh, is in honor of the challenge of life in the moment. It's a very difficult time on the planet for all kinds of reasons without getting into those details, but there's many things happening, and it's a time where the support that is available to us, the wisdom that is available to us as a collective humanity is so profound, and it's easy to get distracted from it if we're really focused simply on the 3D world and the experiences that are contained within it. And so it's so valuable, I think, to have a bigger picture view, a bigger level understanding, and to know how to access the support that each one of us really needs fundamentally in order to navigate our way through these times. And so if there's anything about the course that calls to you in vision of that or in that understanding, give yourself the opportunity really to experience it and see what it brings for you. But regardless of the course, I just want to extend from my heart a wave of love, just blessings to everybody who's listening, who's participated in the meditation. And I hope you really receive something profound and valuable to take away from the conversation today. Lots of love to everybody, and a big heart hug to you, Josh. Thanks for your time and doing the interview.
Oh, John, it's such an honor. It's such an honor. And I feel that wave of love that you've just sent out into the world. And thank you. Thank you for your time today. Thank you for your wisdom. Thank you for showing up with such a profound vision and a path forward for us. We really appreciate it. And to all of you tuning in, thank you for being here. I echo John's wave of love, sending that out to each one of you. If you're hearing the call, we would love to have you join this program. Once again, you can find that at diamondlightbodyactivations.com. We hope to see you in the program. Take care and have a beautiful day.